Wide receiver draft ranking for me, breakdown, draft class breakdown, whatever you want to call it. This is obviously, again, a visual representation on Madden, but these are my real life rankings. You guys have seen ranking videos for receivers from me before. You have seen underrated receivers from me before. I've seen a lot of content, but here we're going to go. Y'all will be seeing this after the week 2 games, so y'all know a little bit more than me, but I'm obviously only week 1 games. Number 1, Jackson Smith and Jigba obviously got hurt last week, but he's just a dynamic playmaker. He plays a lot out of the slot, but I mean, playmaker archetype is definitely correct for him. 6'1", 198, just complete receiver, just a dog, top 5 talent. Jordan Addison, the most productive receiver in the country. I feel like he's a really complete product. He gives you a little bit of everything. He gives you a little bit of shake, a gadget player, but he's also a great downfield receiver. Goes up, competes for the ball, plays stronger than his 175-pound frame. Just a complete receiver. Third for me, Marvin Mims Jr. I feel like he's been kind of underrated just because he's one of the dudes that stayed at Oklahoma, and also his production last year was kind of weird because of the quarterback situation, but I feel like he's just such a dynamic receiver. He works out of the slot sometimes, but he's just so good at catching the ball across the middle, running routes across the middle, gets a little bit, the littlest bit of separation and goes up and makes a play. He always attacks the ball. He's such an elite receiver in that area. Number 4 for me, Raheem Jarrett. A lot of people seem to be sleeping on him. I feel like he's like a real first-round guy. I think when I made the video calling him a top 5 receiver, a lot of people kind of freaked out just because he plays for Maryland, but he's really a dynamic player. Complete game in my opinion. Has reps everywhere on the field. He's a prototypical receiver nowadays. We're seeing a lot of 6'2", 200 type of guys. He kind of fits that billing at 6'1", 190. Kind of a complete game and just like a tremendous athletic ability. Probably low 4.4 speed, can jump. Just really great player in my opinion. Number 5, I have Kayshon Boutte. Now Boutte and Downs like 5A, 5B. They're really close. The reason I put Boutte here is because of his size, and Downs 93% of his snaps come out of the slot. So I feel like Boutte gives you that a little bit of added versatility, but very physical whenever the ball gets in his hands. Obviously, rough game against Florida State, and had a little incident after the game with his social media. But he's still a really good player. I feel like if he can get in the right situation to get healthy, like I think that's gonna be the biggest thing for him, just staying healthy, staying on that type of trajectory. And, you know, obviously he's a bigger guy, kind of built somewhat of a prototypical receiver, like we said, 6'2", 205 for him. A lot of people like to compare him to Jamar Chase, but I think that's just a college thing and the fact that they both wore 1. But I do feel like he's physical and really fast player. Number 6, obviously I said he could be 5. Josh Downs, really complete. Like, in terms of what he does, I think he's the best in the class. In terms of his production out of the slot, he's been the best in the nation, arguably, last year, and he was great in the FAMU game this year. Obviously sat out last game, but we'll see what he does next week. Jermaine Burton and Julian Fleming, both of these dudes kind of unknowns. Burton we have a little bit more information on, in the sense that he has started before, just in that run-heavy offense of Georgia, transferred to Alabama, trying to get more reps, play with Bryce Young, to just get more yards. And you've seen what that did for Jameson Williams last year. Starting him at 7, but he has the potential to jump almost all these guys just because of that offense and the way they're going to try and feature him and get him the ball. And he's a really good decision maker at the receiver position, and they like to put him a lot of option routes because they trust his intelligence and playmaking ability in that aspect of the game. Julian Fleming, another big unknown, literally hasn't started 1 college game in the Rose Bowl, was out last week with some undisclosed injury. I don't know what his availability is like. He's kind of here off of his high school and being the number 1 player in the nation. And also, we've seen some flashes. We've seen some flashes of upside. We don't know what he is. But I have him at 8. If you have him undrafted, completely understand. But I do think that his upside is first round. Solid first round. 2 to 3, just kind of a middle ground for that. A.T. Perry, one of the most productive guys in the country last year, going over 1,000 yards, but 6'5", 206, physical guy. Only thing I want to say about him is just like that frame. Can that hold up? We haven't seen a lot of receivers that 6 foot under 210. 6'5", under 210 really last in the league. So that's kind of why his production's there. But I think in terms of complete receiver on the outside and perimeter, really good player. Number 10, we got TCU's Quentin Johnston. Fast and tall, like really explosive. There are some other guys in this class that are fast and tall, but I feel like someone who, the best thing I feel like he does is just sell vertical. Every play, he's really a vertical threat because he has that type of jump ball ability and that type of top end speed. His ability to push vert and then just create his route tree off of that is something that a lot of receivers do, but I feel like he's the best in the class at it just because of his height, speed, combination, and he's a very technical player too. If it comes down to trying to get in and out of breaks, he's not slow in that aspect. Number 11, Cedric Tillman. Tennessee fans probably crucify me for putting him outside the top 10 of receivers in this draft class. Cedric Tillman is a dog. I understand he's a dog on the perimeter. He's like that. He is an older prospect. His height and physicality on the outside is what gets him open, makes so many plays for him. So I think that's why I view him as such a great receiver. Dante Demas, similar story, just he has a lot of injury problems. His speed is kind of a question mark. Not that he's not fast, but just like we don't know how fast he is. Like, solid route runner. Tank Dell. Tank Dell is one of the most explosive players in the nation. If you have not watched the Houston game, please go watch the Houston game. Explosive. Like, go watch his highlights. This man reminds me of Kadarius Toney in college. Tank Dell's that boy. Dontavion Wicks, we did kind of a highlight on him in the video previewing the Virginia game this weekend, but definitely good receiver. Does a good job creating separation. Obviously, he takes some reps out of the slot, but 6'5" plus receivers on the outside. Seeing Jaden Daniels, a lot of Michigan State fans are going to say he's going to have a huge breakout year this year, and I think he definitely has the potential to do that. Question mark just being, like, how much is he going to get involved in that offense? I think he's a really good player and high upside and wins jump balls. Jalen Cropper plays for Fresno State, so obviously the level of competition always becomes, like, a question in that regard, but he did go off against UCLA, so you can't say you don't have tape of him going off against a big-time school. Theo Weiss, I had one good season, didn't really play a lot last year, don't really know what happened with that, didn't look into it too much, but I do think he's a good player from the film that we've seen. Physical and also dynamic, so I think that's why his game is complete. Parker Washington, I got a lot more people are high on than I am. Obviously, he's kind of built like a running back, 5'10", 207. He does a good job high pointing the ball for a small receiver. He works at the slot a lot. Anais Smith, if you want to talk about like, dynamic, Tank, that was one thing because he has that top end speed. Anais Smith, I don't feel like he has the top end speed, but in terms of like shiftiness and being able to make you miss in a phone booth, like Anais Smith is that. Also has some running back playing ability, so just dynamic athlete. He's a gadget player. He can play all over the field. And a 5'10", 190, you can put him anywhere, really, and he's going to be effective. 21, Zay Flowers, we want to talk about speed, top-end speed, taking the towel off the defense. Does a good job adjusting to the ball, is what I've noticed. He kind of added to his game towards the end of last year, and obviously his game this year against Rutgers. He had that back shoulder fade in the end zone. And I was just talking about Zay Flowers' speed. This dude has track speed, like literal potential Olympic track speed. Tyler Harrell is stupid fast. He has reported 4.19 40 time out there. I'm not buying it. But the fact that's even reported in this day and age where we're not kind of making up 4.12s like Bo Jackson, we're talking about 4.19 40, allegedly. 6 foot, top off the defense ability. A lot of people said he could be the Jameson Williams stop, right? But this dude's fast. Jacob Cowan, amazing game week 1, 3 touchdowns, I think 8 catches, 170 yards. In their win over San Diego State, which I called. Very, very, very good player, and obviously transferred from UTEP and has excelled in that bigger role. Arik Gilbert, obviously 5-star LSU, went to LSU, was nice there, then had personal problems. I hope everything's good with him and he can just focus on football and lock in. Have a great season this year. 6'5", 255, can play tight end. I do think he'll ultimately end up converting to a tight end, but he's a receiver right now, so I just have him out there. Potentially UDFA just because we don't know with him right now. Demond Demas, I think he's in jail. I don't really know what's going on with him. But I just put him in the draft class. He's a good athlete, can jump really high, and it's kind of fast. So I wouldn't put him up here in the rankings. He might not even be on anybody's roster ever. So I don't really know what's going on with him. But beside the point. Elijah Higgins, this dude, like, if you look at his like height, weight, and speed, you're like DK Metcalf. Because this man is fast, man. He can run, and he's obviously 6'3", 234. I think a pound off of DK. He's really, like, comparable from an athleticism standpoint to him. Obviously not the receiver he is at this point. Maybe he can develop into that. Who knows? Isaiah Nayer, I believe he got hurt, which really sucks. So I was really looking forward to seeing how he would operate with an Xavier Worthy and the Jordan Whittington in his room and being able to kind of work himself open in that Big 12 spread-style offense that Texas likes to run with Steve Sarkisian. Keaton Thompson, converted quarterback to receiver, 6'5", 216. Really good player. Tavion Robinson had a great game last week. Or from my vantage point, 6 catches, I believe 160 yards or something. He went crazy, and he's really dynamic, can make people miss. And Shaq Davis, I don't know why I call him Shaquan. Everyone calls him Shaq, but his full name is Shaquan. Physical, obviously everyone remembers like the Deion dance he did in the Celebration Bowl last year. Had some really good plays against UCF last week, catching some fades in the end zone. Shaq Davis is a dog, and I think we're going to see him on Sundays, and I think he is going to be making somebody's roster as a UDFA next year. Micah Pittman, obviously brother of Michael Pittman Jr., and he had some nice punt returns for FSU. We got to see more from him. Jalen Hall, we want to talk about speed. I think this dude is in the 4.3s, 4.2s, 6'3", so obviously he has that height, transfer from Western Michigan. Ronnie Bell is one of the guys that I think you can look at and say he has the potential to be I don't want to say first-round guy because that's a stretch, but he has a chance to be a high draft pick because last year he got hurt and just I feel like everyone kind of knows what he has in him. We just got to see after the injury. Arian Smith, another fast guy, reports of low 4.3s in speed. So we'll see what he can do in this Georgia offense this year. Now that some guys have kind of cleared out, Jermaine Burton transferring to Alabama, George Pickens obviously going to the NFL. Could this be the Arian Smith year? We will see. Puka Nakua, solid player. Haven't got to watch many of his games, but from his highlights and stuff, I think he is a pretty solid player, and he does a good job high pointing the ball. Bryce Ford Wheaton, obviously, everyone's going to kind of crucify him for that drop he had in the game against Pittsburgh, but he had a great game that game, and I think he was targeted like 15 times, and he was just being a beast. Like, they could not guard him. His 6'3", 224 frame, he's just an absolute monster. Tyler Hudson transfers from Central Arkansas to Louisville, looking to kind of take that Tyler Harrell role. They lost a lot of receivers last year, trying to step up for them in a big way. So, yeah, that is your wide receiver breakdown. Yeah,